Oh my gosh. 10, 15, 20, 25, $29.29. How in the hell did I end up with only $29.29? I need to start making some money. Hey, and welcome to Flindog Woodwork. This is Brian. Today we're going to take a look at 7 high-end woodworking accessories. Now, I purchased all of these accessories with my own money, and I'm sponsored by nobody, so I'm going to give you the honest truth. Now, many of these items are well over $100, but in my opinion, they're well worth it. So let's take a look at these 7 items, and I'll show you why I like them so much. So the first up on my list today is something that's made in Canada. Go Canada. This thing is the INSTA-RAILSQUARE XL. Now, if you have a track saw, especially a Festool track saw, this thing is amazing. Let me show you some of the specifics about it and why I like it so much. So here's a close-up of the INSTA-RAIL XL. Now let me show you some of the cool things about this INSTA-RAIL. Now it's got 2 bench dogs that are actually attached to the frame of the INSTA-RAIL. Now these can be easily removed by simply unscrewing them and popping them out of the frame. Now these 2 bench dogs can easily fit into any MFT or any bench dog that you have in your workshop. Let me show you. Now here we're over at the MFT. Now on the back side of this INSTA-RAIL, there's a T-slot that runs the entire frame. You simply place your bench dogs into that T-slot, slide them down, and lock them into place by twisting them. Now that you have your 2 bench dogs installed, you can place it on the MFT table and make sure the bench dogs are aligned with the holes. So let's do that right now. Once we have the bench dogs installed, you can loosen them up a little bit so that they can move around, and you can place them inside of the holes of the actual MFT table. And this is completely secure, and it will create a 90-degree alignment that's in line with your bench dogs. But let me show you exactly how I use this tool the most. So 99% of the time, I use the INSTA-RAILSQUARE XL to make sure that when I'm using my track saw, I can align my track so it's perfectly perpendicular to the actual workpiece. To do that, I simply lock in my bench dogs, and now that my bench dogs are completely locked into place, I won't be using these to put in a bench dog hole, but instead I'll be using these to rest against the workpiece. On the front side of the INSTA-RAIL, there's actually a little T-slot here where you can slide your actual track into the rail square. Once you've slid your track into the rail square, you can then lock it into place by using this little clamp. Now underneath, these 2 bench dogs are giving full support against the workpiece, creating a 90-degree angle. Then once you have it locked in place, you can use your track saw and make the cut right down the line. Just to show you how square this is, I'm going to strike a line on this workpiece, and I'm going to take my woodpecker's 12-inch square, and as you can see, that line is perfectly perpendicular to the edge of the workpiece. Next up is something that I just recently purchased, and this is something that you've seen me use a variety of times around the shop. And that's this Rockler 4-piece digital measuring kit. Now the nice thing about this is it's got everything you need to make sure that your measurements are exactly precise and your tools are perfectly set up. In the kit comes your standard calipers, which are really nice and have a metal frame construction. They also have a nice little wheel here that allows you to make micro adjustments to your calipers. Secondly, as you may have seen from some of my previous videos, I've been a little frustrated on how to set up my router table, and that's where this tool comes into play. This has actually got a depth guide on it where you can figure out exactly how high your router bit is on your router table. Let me show you how this works. So over at the router table, I've got this set up so each of the feet are pressed firmly against the frame of the actual router table. Then I push down all the way on the little movable piece and I zero it out. Now that it's zeroed out, I can hurdle this across my router bit and figure out exactly how high that router bit is. And here it's 0.174 inches. You can change this to inches, to millimeters, whatever measurement you would like. Now the nice thing about this is that it has 2 feet that are straddled quite far apart from each other that allow you to straddle that router bit and get that accurate measurement that you need. The next thing that comes in this kit is this nice little angle finder, which I primarily use to set the angle of my table saw. Now as you can see here, it's already zeroed out, but once you place it on your table saw and you place it on your blade, making sure that the teeth don't touch, and here you can see it's a perfect 90 degrees. Now before, I used this angle finder, which I purchased at Home Depot. The problem with this is it reads differently than the actual one from Rockler. So here you can see it actually reads 89.8 degrees. This actually caused me so much frustration that I actually contacted SawStop and I tried to find out if there's anything I can do to get this to an exact 90. And they told me that their quality control only guaranteed up to 1/10 of a degree. which in my opinion wasn't accurate enough for my precision woodworking. But it's nice to know now that I have a more accurate angle finder that this table saw is at a perfect 90 and I don't need to do anything to make sure that my alignments are correct. The other two measuring tools are quite self-explanatory, as you have your angle finder that allows you to figure out what those angles are, and the calipers as well. The one nice thing about these calipers, which I've never had before, is this little wheel, which I fully anticipate using as it allows you to really creep up on those really tight measurements. All of these have the ability to measure inches as well as millimeters, which is nice depending on which measurement system you're using. The other nice thing is this case is very well made. It actually even has places to store your batteries. Now let's take a look at the drill press. And I'll have to say, gray doesn't suit me when I'm sweating like this.
And when I do sweat, I don't shower. I'm not spick and span.
Over at my drill press, I have a variety of bits. I've got everywhere from these DeWalt bits that are lying on the counter here. I've got Ryobi bits. I've got Craftsman bits. I've got a barrage of bits that are all over the place. Now, about 80% of the time, these bits do me just fine. In fact, I like to use these when I'm working on outdoor projects or things that don't require me to have a very clean, tight hole that doesn't have any frizz around the edge.
That's what she said.
But when I'm working with dowels and things that require you to have that extra layer of precision, I have this nice little box of drill bits that I use for special occasions. Let's take a closer look. So like I said, I usually use this when I'm trying to put dowels into a project or have to have a very clean cut. Inside this box, I've got everything I need. There's a variety of bits going from 1/16 of an inch all the way up to 5/16 of an inch. The nice thing about this is it has anywhere between 6 and 10 of these drill bits, so that if one ever wears out, I have a backup. It also allows me to easily see what bits I have, and if I'm running low on a particular bit, I can easily see that and I can go to the hardware store and purchase a new bit. It's also nice to have these in a case so that I can easily seal it away and keep all the sawdust out of it. Next up is something on our list that I didn't even realize that there was a difference between high quality bits and low quality bits. I love using Forstner bits. Now, as you've seen from my previous videos, I don't tend to use my drill press when I'm using Forstner bits. I tend to use a standard drill. Until I get a high powered drill press, this is going to be the main way I use Forstner bits. Now, before I got this next set of Forstner bits, I primarily used these Ryobi Forstner bits. And these were great, but I saw a lot of tear out. It wasn't until I bought a high quality set of Forstner bits that I realized that there's a big difference between a standard economy set of Forstner bits and a high-end Forstner bit like those sold at Woodcraft. Let's take a look at this set of Forstner bits. So first off, this set of Forstner bits comes in this really nice wooden case. It's even got box joints on the edge. When we open it up, we can see how well made these Forstner bits are. Inside this Forstner bit set, it's got two little swing arms that allow you to raise and lower the Forstner bits. The Forstner bits go from a small 1/4 inch bit all the way up to a 2 1/8 inch bit. Now, if we compare the Ryobi Forstner bits with these bits, we can see that these bits are very simple. They have a simple cutting edge, and even this larger one only has 2 teeth to cut into the wood on each side. When we compare this to the Wood River Forstner bit, you can see that there's a variety of more teeth on the same size bit. This bit's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teeth instead of the 2. This creates a situation where it's much easier to cut through your workpiece, and there's less tear out as you cut through it, which in my opinion is one of the most important things when you're using a Forstner bit. So are you into hand tools? Do you use an MFT, or do you have bench dogs in your bench? Well, I'm just beginning to get into hand tools, and I'm realizing how powerful these bench dogs and bench dog holes are. Now, I made a drastic mistake when I bought my first set of bench dogs. Let me show you what I bought and why they're such an issue. So when I first got into woodworking, I didn't want to spend too much money on anything I wasn't sure I was going to use on a regular basis. And that's perfectly normal and perfectly reasonable. So I went on Amazon.com and I purchased these plastic bench dogs. You may have seen these on Amazon.com, but I tell you to avoid these at all costs. The problem is they are not securely in the bench dog holes. You can see as I wiggle these right here, there's a lot of play in each one of these bench dogs. And when you place your workpiece on these bench dogs, it creates a surface that's wobbly and insecure. If you're planing or doing anything that needs a lot of support, this isn't going to provide it for you. And that's a real problem for a beginning woodworker. When you buy cheap, inaccurate tools, sometimes you think it's your fault and not the actual tool's fault. And in this case, it was absolutely the tool's fault. So what do you buy instead? Well, I'll show you. It comes in this nice little orange packet. If you unzip this, you can see it's called Clear Style Bench Dogs. Now these are great. These provide all the support you need when you're doing things like planing or chisel work. Let me show you the difference between the amount of play between the metal bench dog and the plastic bench dog. Here you can see there's very little play, but when you go over here, there's substantial play. Now if you have two of these bench dogs in place, it's almost like having a wall where you can secure your workpiece against it and know that it's not going anywhere. This set comes in a variety of heights, which is also quite nice. It goes from 0.375 inches all the way up to 2 inches. Here's a comparison of the 0.375 inch next to the 2 inch. There's also bench dogs here that allow you to create your own height. By simply unscrewing them, you can create any height you want by placing it into the bench dog hole. Lastly, along with this set are two guide rails that you can easily place on top of your bench dogs, and this creates a long surface that gives you even more support. Now, if you're anything like me, when I first started out with chisels, I was a little intimidated. Once again, I purchased some cheap chisels and I wasn't quite sure how to get them sharp. I assumed that they came out of the box sharp and they'd be good for a lifetime. That's just not the case. Once I learned a little bit more about how to maintain my chisels, I realized I needed to get some stones and a strop to maintain that really sharp edge. I started off first by buying this cheap honing guide. Now this caused me tons of frustration. I would sharpen my chisels, be almost done, and realize that it was completely screwed up and the angles were all messed up, and it even caused some damage to many of my chisels. Now if we take a closer look at this honing guide, you can see that the support of this honing guide is very small, and that was half my problem. As I rolled the chisel back and forth on the stone, it was tipping from one edge to the other and creating rounded edges on my chisels and not creating that sharp, crisp edge that I was looking for. After I became a little bit more familiar with how to sharpen chisels, I broke the bank and bought this honing guide from VERITAS. Now look at the support of this wheel as compared to the support of my original wheel. This creates a very stable surface for you when you go back and forth against the stone, and it allows you to get that really crisp, sharp edge on either sides. One of the other excellent features of this honing guide is it comes with this detailed registration plate that allows you to easily place your chisel at the desired angle that you want. As you can see from here, I'm going for a 25% primary bevel. And once you've got it registered against the register block, you can then unscrew the registration plate, and now you're ready to sharpen. This gave me the confidence that I needed to know that I was getting my angles correct and the support that I needed to make sure that those crisp edges were maintained and kept at the desired precision. If we take a closer look at the honing guide, you can see that there's a color-coded area here with a red 1, a yellow 2, and a green 3. On the honing guide, you can adjust whether you're in the yellow zone, the green zone, or the red zone by simply unscrewing this knob here and adjusting up or down. And it easily locks into place. These numbers are used to determine what angle you would like to place on either your chisel or your planer blade. By simply unscrewing this knob, if you're in the yellow zone, you can go from 25, you can slide it down to 30, 35, 40, and as little as 15. If you're on the green, you can go from 10, 13, 15, 17, and 20. The red, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. So there's a variety of angles here that you can really creep up on, and it allows you to get that really precise bevel and secondary bevel on your chisel and planing tools. This honing guide also accommodates anything up to a 3-inch blade. Alright, last up on our list is the chisel. When I first got into woodworking, I just went down to Lowe's and I picked up these Irwin chisels. And these suited me okay for a period of time. The one nice thing about these chisels is it's got a metal frame that runs down the entire length of the actual handle and into the blade. This allows you to take a hammer and gouge into those really hard to get areas. Nowadays, I use these chisels for any sort of rough work that I'm doing. But when I'm trying to do some really detailed work or trying to get into some really fine areas, that's where I stepped it up a little bit and bought these chisels from Wood River. Let's take a look and see what's inside this box. So I'll have to say, I've never been disappointed in the quality of Wood River products. Wood River is the brand that's made by Woodcraft. So let's open the box and see what we got. As you can see, there's some beautifully crafted chisels here. They go all the way from 1/4 of an inch all the way up to 3/4 of an inch. They all have wooden handles and came from the factory considerably sharp. Now once I did get these chisels, I flattened out the back and created a secondary bevel, but these were high quality, straight out of the box. The nice thing about these chisels is they're really comfortable to the touch. Having the wooden handle allows you to almost feel connected to the workpiece that you're working on. I'm very pleased with these tools, and frankly going from the Irwin all the way to this was a huge jump. I realized that a lot of my chisel work where I was making small mistakes was sometimes caused by the actual chisel itself. Since these are made from hardened steel, they wear down much slower and it takes a long time to dull these blades. I usually keep these chisels in my box and out of the dust and sealed up. I grab these anytime I'm working on furniture or anything else where that precision just has to be there. Well, thanks for joining me today on these 7 sweaty high-end woodshop accessories. We'll see you again next time. Well, thanks for joining me today and taking a look at these 7 high-end woodshop accessories. If you get a chance, I'd love to get your subscription and leave a like. Also, hit that notification bell so you can be informed of when future videos come out. Thanks again and take care as always.